Right, the internet works.
Right, everybody, we're gonna give a few more minutes just so we don't have to go back over anything, recover the video. As we're going to start with this video on parenting. And so once we get rolling, we gonna be rolling. If somebody has access to the Shore Foundation messenger, if you could forward the link into that messenger for me, that would be awesome. Because sometimes people can't find their link for some reason. Okay, we're going to pray and get ready to get started here. Would anyone like to volunteer to pray us in? No? Okay, I'll pray. So, Father, we just thank you for this evening. We thank you for this opportunity to come together. Lord, we just pray that you facilitate, that you encourage, equip, strengthen, build up all of us, no matter what stage of parenting we're in, no matter what dimension of parenting we're in. We just ask God that you just bless this time, bless each person that's coming on. And Lord, I just pray for participation and for God, you to get the glory in all that we're doing. And so, God, we just thank you. We just thank you that you kept us all day long, that you've been with us throughout this day, and that you'll be with us through this class. Holy Spirit, teach, unpack, heal, deliver, set free, correct, redirect, just have your way. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. All right. We're going to open up with a video. We're probably only going to watch about 3 minutes of it. But this will be our icebreaker, our introduction as people are coming on. Let's see.
The church equips parents who then are the primary teachers of their children. And so as the teacher, you're going to teach them not just by what you say, but by how you live.
Pastor, you've raised 4 kids, and I'm raising children right now. So our question here pertains to me as it does to you in reflection. I'm trying to raise children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, as the scriptures exhort me to do. I also know the scriptures say that children should obey their parents, which they don't always do. I find it difficult from time to time to raise my kids. But I want to be a godly parent. How would you encourage someone like me who wants to be a godly parent?
You know, Jeff, let me answer that question thinking about my own children, because I have two children who have children. And if they sat down with me today and said, Dad, we want to raise our children in a way that honors Christ, what advice do you have for us? One of the things that comes to mind is this is a lifelong endeavor. So until your children are out of your home, and even when they're out of your home, they're going to honor you for a lifetime and you can be a counselor to them. It's an ongoing endeavor, which means you're going to have patience, diligence, endurance. You have to stay at it. I would also tell my children that you can't teach what you're not willing to live. So if you're going to train your children well, you need to examine your own devotion to our God and to His Son. So, for example, if you're going to teach your children to study the Bible, are you a good student of the Bible? If you're going to teach your children to pray, are you someone devoted to prayer? If you're going to teach your children, as we should, to love the church, do you model what it means to love the church? If you're going to teach your children how to be faithful with their money, to honor God with what He gives to them, examine yourself and ask, are you honoring the Lord with your wealth? Are you generous? Are you supporting the Lord's work with giving? If you're going to teach your children about sexual purity, you need to examine your own life and ask, are you watching over your heart and your mind? Are you being a good example there? If you're going to warn your children about the dangers that are found in the world, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the boastful pride of life, are you aware of those avenues of temptation? And are you watching over your own life in those areas?
Right. Amen. So, what are our reactions to the video? What are some of the things that stood out to you? What are some of the things that when you were listening, you were nodding, or you were saying, or you don't know? Or what are some things that stood out in the video to each of you? Those that are watching on YouTube, you can drop your comment in the messenger, the live chat as well. Anybody? Okay. Nothing stood out? Okay, maybe lost my sound. See. Tim says children hear what you do much louder than what you say. Amen. Anything else? So you guys are hearing me. Thumbs up if you are. Okay. All right. We'll move on and get into our lesson. So tonight, I'm going to kind of get into just a process. And this is a process that when I was meditating through and looking at some verses, so hopefully everybody's hearing me, and hopefully everybody's in a place where they can grab a Bible and kind of read along as we go into these scriptures. But basically, the process is to train, test, and then trust. And so each part of this process it builds on the other. And so we begin with the training. As he said in the video, that the primary goal is to train up your children in the admonition of the Lord, in the love of God, and how to live for God. And in order to do that, it starts with you being disciplined. The training aspect of it, to me, is the hardest part for most people, because training means that you have to be willing to do something over and over and over again. That at the end of the day, it's not like you just tell somebody to do it one time and then you step back. Training means you tell them how to do it, you show them how to do it, you walk them through it. And this process is done over and over again. It's not like it's a one-time process or it's one stage. This process is always being done. You train, you test them on what you've trained them, and then you trust them to be able to go and do the things that they have been trained to do. You train, you test them on what's been trained, then you trust them. And this is the process. And if you can keep this process in mind, no matter if it's children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, nieces, nephews, cousins, whatever it is that you're trying to get them to do, you've got to understand that you're going to have to train, test, and then trust. And so the verses that we put up here, one of them I know you guys know by heart, Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 6. Everybody knows that by heart, because that's like the main parenting scripture, to train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart. And this idea is to point them in a direction, to do something over and over again until they get it. And I don't think most parents are thinking that way. They're thinking, I told my kids to do something, they do it. Not, I'm training them. Training them is repetitive. Sometimes people think training is only spankings, right? Whoopings and getting in trouble. That's how they think about training. But training is about repetitive actions. And so when you're training someone, you're saying, do this. Now let me watch you do it, test and see if you got what I'm talking about, and then trust you to be able to do it on your own. So I'm going to leave you to do it. I'm not going to stand over you. Once I've seen that you know how to do it, I'm not going to stand over you. Luke 6:40 is one of my wife's favorite scriptures. It says that a disciple is not above their teacher, but one who is completely trained will be just like their teacher. Now, this is important because when we're teaching, when we're discipling, when we're training, the goal is for them to do it, whatever it is, the way that we've shown them to do it. And so, a lot of parents will, my child is being disobedient. Well, I think Tim said it best. Children kind of do what they see you do rather than do what you say to do. And so if they are being completely trained, they're being trained by whatever is done repetitiously, not by what's stated and then not done, right? And so let's say we're, training some young children to clean their room, right? You're training them to clean their room. And this is the first time, and you go in, you show them where things go, how you want it to look. The next time you come in and you work with them, show them where things are and how you want it to go. Now you step back and you say, let me see you do it. This is the testing phase. You do it and you watch them do it. And you say, okay, I think you got it. Now I'm not going to look over your shoulder the next time you do it. I'm going to let you go ahead and do it. And so I'm going to say, go clean your room, because you have been trained how to do it. You've been testing on it. So now I can expect that you do it right. A lot of parents, that's not their process. Their process is clean your room. And the kids are sitting in there distraught. They don't know where anything goes because they haven't been trained. So you're testing somebody on something they haven't been trained for. Does that make sense? And then you're upset because you can't trust them. And you can't trust them because you didn't train them. And so all these things kind of connect to each other. Are you with me? And I know everybody's kind of in their own place and it's hard for you to chime in. And I don't really like talking to myself, but I guess I'm going to have to. And so this training process, it starts with you. It starts with you understanding that this is supposed to be over and over and over and over again. It's not supposed to be, I say it one time and that's it. It's actually supposed to be over and over again. Now, here's something that most families don't do anymore. I grew up in a household where we got up on Saturday mornings, and every Saturday we had chores, and we cleaned the house, and mom did her cleaning and got everything together. And it just, you knew from that time forward, for the rest of the week, you're kind of maintaining the things. Now, yeah, you had chores throughout the week, but we were trained that every Saturday morning, you got up, we ate breakfast, watch our cartoons, and then we had chores. We had to clean that house. We had to clean up certain things. Everybody had assignments, right? And we learned how to do those assignments, right? You learned how to clean that sink, and you learned how to clean it the right way. And mom showed you how to do it. Then she watched you do it. And then after that, once she knew you knew how to do it, she let you go do it. That was called training. A lot of households don't do that anymore. It's kind of just, it's either it doesn't get done at all or it's left to one person, you know, and that one person is kicking everybody out so they can do all the cleaning themselves, and children aren't incorporated in that. And what you don't understand is that you're actually hindering them, so that when they get older and they get their own place, they're going to be that child that doesn't have any system, that doesn't know how to do anything. And you're going to wonder why they don't know how to do it. Like, well, you grew up in my house, but you never trained them. You expected them to do something that you never trained them to do. Does that make sense? I guess just give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Any questions or comments about that? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm echoing. How do you do that? Like when you say repetitively, like you got to keep doing it. Is that like a lifetime thing?
Yeah.
Because when is your child supposed to be able to pick up on something? Like I feel like there's some things that she's not picking up on that she should have already picked up on.
Well, so you trained her on it, right? And then you tested her. You watched her do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you watched her do it, then that means you tested her and you felt like she could do it.
So as long as I'm there, she can. But then when I'm not there, she acts like she don't know anything.
Well, because you got to let her know that you're trying to build trust in her. You want to be able to trust that she can do it without you. And because I don't think that she understands that that's the goal. I think she thinks the goal is for her to do it in front of you, not for her to be able to do it on her own.
Okay.
Because she's got to know that one day she's going to have her own, and she's going to want her stuff to be whatever it is. I don't know specifically what you're, referring to as her not picking up on it, but whatever it is, you have to let them know. Part of training is having a goal. And the goal is that you want to one day let them do it on their own, and so they got to know that, we were taught that, my mom was like, you're not going to say you don't know how to do it. If you don't do it when you're grown, you're not going to say you don't know how to do it. Mama Hill, I thought I saw your hand for a second.
Yeah, you did. I'm just chimed in. Sorry I'm late because I forgot what time it was. But Jewel, when you say that, well, let me say it this way. When my children, I showed them how to do things, I would get in there with them and show them how to do it. And this is how I want it done.
Mhm.
But for as trusting that for them to do it, my children, they knew because of my work schedule, they every day they got home from school, they were all assigned a certain chore. Was it was bathroom,
Me
take
too,
out the
me
trash,
too. Me too.
you know. But what I did, you only got one child, but what I did was I made them out of schedule, and it was pinned on the side of the refrigerator. And they knew that that was my expectation, that when I got home, what you were assigned to do, you had to have that done or they were going to have consequences. So I'm not sure, like with Davita, do she know that that's your expectation, that this is what is required? You're responsible for this daily, not when I'm just here. When you get home or whatever, this is what you're responsible for doing. You need to have this done, even if you have to give her by a certain time. It's like if it's from 4 to 4:30, between 4 and 4:30, this is what I expect for you to have done. So
right.
you have to set because she may not even know. She's like you say, she'll do it when you're there, but if you're not there, then if you haven't told her what is expected of her, then she may not. That's probably where the disconnect is coming. Because I was like pastor growing up on Saturday mornings. My parents would sleep in, but we got up and we ate our breakfast and we watched our cartoons. But when mom hit the floor,
Yep.
we had certain things that we were required to do before. Don't even think about going outside to play.
Yep.
Until you had this done.
Right. So I mean, as we're talking it out, I think it's more of just flat out disobedience, where she's like, no, I'm not. Because if I ask her to do something while I'm at work and she's at home, it's like, no, Mom, I'm not. Just the flat out disobedience rather than not knowing how to do it. It's just the flat disobedience.
And then she should have a consequence for her disobedience.
Yeah. So yeah,
whatever your consequence, you got to have a consequence. Okay, you're not gonna do it, then XYZ is gonna happen.
right.
With me, my kids, I know it's different in this day and time. They didn't do what I told them to do. They knew they were gonna get whooped because I was not playing with them. But in this day and time, I know parents are different. So you got to have okay, you're not gonna do it. Then okay, then you can't watch YouTube, or you got to have some, you don't want to obey, then this is what the consequences is. You got to start teaching her that way, because as you get older, there's consequences. If you disobey the law, you're going to jail. That's a consequence.
Right.
So you have to have a consequence, and then you have to be consistent with it. Don't just, I know a lot of parents today, they get that way and then they slack off. You can't slack off. You got to stay consistent with them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because like you said, you train them, show them exactly how you want it done. And the testing phase is that I give it to you, you do it. If you don't do it, like you said, there's consequences. There's consequences to you not doing it, because that means I can't trust you. I can't trust you to do it because you're proven to me that you can't. And that's where we talked about earlier, teaching your children obedience, letting your yes be yes and your no be no. And the reason why you're teaching them obedience, and Mama Hill, you said it, is that they're going to have to learn this in life anyway. They're going to have to, they're going to have to listen to a boss. They're going to have to listen to a police officer. They're going to have to listen to a teacher. They're going to have to listen to a coach. They're going to have to do this, throughout their life. And so if they learn it at home, you feel better that actually is for their safety, is what Proverbs says, is that if we discipline our children, they'll live. So there's, that whole phase of disciplining is important. And that's in that phase between testing and trusting, is this discipline area. I think, let's see, Amelia says, having split parents, there was always different expectations due to how each household ran, and I think, from the child's perspective, that can seem difficult, but if you're taught obedience, you just do what you're told to do at whatever house you're at. right? If I'm here, I know this is what they do here. So I do that. If I'm over here, I know this is what they do here. It's just like, because you end up using that same skill in life, right? You're at, let's say you work 2 jobs, right? On one job, it's relaxed and you can, do whatever you want on this job. And you like that job. Like, man, this job is cool. At your other job, man, it's strict and you're running, but you do it, right? Because that's what's required of you. And so it's really about a perspective thing, because you hear that a lot. Well, over at this house, they can do this, and over at that house, they can do that. Life is going to be like that. And this is why training is so important young, training them young. Then as they get older, there's more testing than training because you taught them already. And then you can trust them. You want to be able to trust adult children. You want to be able to trust that I trained them up. They know what to do. If they need help and advice, they'll come back to me. Proverbs chapter 1, verses 8 and 9, it says, "My son, hear the instructions of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother, for they will be a graceful ornament on your head and chains about your neck." And so these chains are, jewelry. So they're supposed to make you look good. And I don't think children really understand that that's what parents are trying to do. We're trying to raise you up so that you look good in life. You do good in life. You're successful in life. And disobedient children don't realize that they're setting themselves up to have a hard life, that it's going to be tough. If you don't learn it here at home, you're going to go out there in the world and life is going to discipline you. But you're going to be disciplined. You're going to learn. Mama Hill.
Oh, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say too, and you have in this day and time, I think a lot of the children, I'm not going to say it's not being taught, but I don't think they understand what it means to be obedient.
No, they no.
And if the parents aren't teaching them, like you said, in the home, there's consequences for not doing as you're told to do or asked to do. There's a consequence. So I don't think these children understand what obedience means. And that's a disconnect for today's society of kids. They don't understand that that they are being disobedient or they're being disrespectful because there's not a line drawn in between these kids now.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. We live in a day and age where disobedient to parents, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, is a sign of the times. It actually is a part of these days, these last and perilous times, that their children are going to be unconvinced by their parents. They're looking at you and they're saying, I'm not convinced that I should do this. I'm not convinced that I should behave like that. As a matter of fact, we live in a world that is taught feelings are king, right? What you feel is the most important thing. So if you feel like this, then you do that. If you feel like this, then you say you're this. If you feel like you don't want to do that, then they can't make you do that. And by living in a world like that, you have to have your home set up differently. Your home has to reflect, what you believe, who you are. And as parents, we have to be disciplined, right? We have to show whatever it is that we're trying to show our children. We've got to show that. If we want them to be consistent, we got to show them consistency. If we want them to be obedient, we got to show them obedience. If we want them to be, we want them to have manners and to be respectful, we've got to show them what that looks like. And we've got to show them in situations where it's hard, because these children are looking at the parents and they're saying, well, when people talk to you like that, you don't take it. So I'm not going to take it. So you're not going to talk to me like that, because if somebody talks to you like that, you're going to go off. Amen. And so it's difficult, right? When parents aren't modeling, what it is that they desire. And I just think this is why the training is that anyone perfectly trained or anyone fully trained is going to be just like their teacher. And you've got to look at your kids and you got to examine yourself and you got to say, where did that come from? Is that something that came from me? Because sometimes there's things that I'm like, man, yeah, that's because of me. So I really got to help them with that and show some vulnerability and some transparency that, yeah, here's why that's like that. And that's not actually good, And so let's go back to training. As I said, training is the hardest part of this. Well, maybe. Each part has its challenges, right? But training to me is the foundation. That repetitive, over and over again, showing them how to do something, why to do something, what it looks like to do something. As Mama Hill said, what does obedience look like? You might even have to, sit down and show them, well, mommy and daddy, we have to be obedient. When my employer tells me this, I have to do that. Just like when I tell you this, you have to do that, or whatever examples you want to use, you want to get that idea across that obedience is the only way you can really be trained. If I'm coaching a basketball team and my players are not going to listen to me, I'm not going to be able to help them. I'm not going to be able to make them better. When I go to do the drills, they don't want to do them, right? When I want to go through, imagine that. How am I going to make them better if they're not willing to be obedient? A lot of people hear obedience and they think negative, right? I mean, think about that. When you hear, oh, you need to obey, most people are thinking something negative, like it's derogatory or it's, somebody's talking down to you, instead of obedience being the means for you to be trained up to accomplish all that you're supposed to accomplish. So in the training phase, what are some things that you have trained your children in, or some things that you're trying to train them in, whether they're children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, whatever, what are some things that you're trying to train them in? Or you have trained them? Anybody?
Well, I try to wait for everybody else to speak because, like I said, my children are grown. But in them growing up, and like I said, they training, I had to train them how to be respectful.
Yes.
I had to train them how to do their chores. I had to train them how to do these things. You know what I'm saying? But again, I still stick with, in the training phase is when you teach them the obedient part, is because if you're training them and you're telling them and you guiding them and trying to tell them, and it's like, well, if you don't do thus, there is a consequence to everything. How you talk to people, there's consequences. So in that training phase, that's what I try to teach my children, is like, if you don't do this, then this is what's going to happen. And when they got older, then I was able to get to the trust phase. I had to be able to trust them to go out, because I have taught you what the consequences are. If you don't do thus, you know that there's a consequence if you go out and you do something wrong. There's a consequence if you go out and do something good. So there's always a consequence.
So how did you train them to be respectful? And I ask that because I look at respect and honor in the same way. And so if you're taught to honor your parents, right, then you'll go out and you'll know how to be honorable and respectful, to other people. And so what are some of the things that you did to, train them to be respectful?
For us being respectful, the things that I did not allow you to do towards me, and I'm training you you're not going to talk to me any old kind of way. You're not going to do this, but at the same time, that is what my expectation is you can't do it to me. I'm not going to let you go out there and do it towards somebody else.
Right.
If you don't talk back to me, then I better not see you disrespectful, talking back to somebody if I don't allow you to do it towards me. So that was one of my main things is you didn't do it you're not going to do this in the house. And if people told me that they seen my kids, I said, and how would they act? No, they were acting very respectful.
That's right.
Such came up to my house, and how did they act? Oh, they were very respectful. They better been, because they knew they were going to have a consequence from me.
Can I jump in with a question real quick?
Yes, please.
And it's for Mama Hill, please stay in there. So I can get my daughter to be respectful to everybody but me. How can I fix, I don't want to say fix it. How can I correct that? I'm teaching her not to be disrespectful, but she still she'll still talk back. She'll still tell me no. She'll still be disrespectful to me, but to anybody else, it's not like that.
And when she be disrespectful to you, what is the consequence that you do with her?
Mama Hill, I'm gonna be honest, I done tried it all. I done tried it all. Spanks don't whoop, whoopings don't work. Taking things from her don't work. She's like, I don't care, take it. Talking to her doesn't work. Spending more time with her doesn't work. Like, I have literally tried from one extreme to the next.
So
let me ask I don't know.
Let me ask you this. When that happened, have you tried, when she do that, have you asked her, why do you feel that way? Why do you do that towards me? But at the same time, she may say some things that's going to hurt your feelings, but you have to take it to heart, but you got to let her be able to express why she feel that way towards you or why she does that. There's a reason.
She's not telling me why she does it. She just says, you always blame it on me. And I'm like, but Davita, you're responsible for your actions. So
she just gave you the answer.
She just gave you the answer. Yeah.
She just gave you the answer.
So what? Okay, help me understand, because I feel real dumb right now.
Don't feel dumb. She said, because you're going to blame it on me regardless. You're going to blame it on me. So you have to try to turn that around. It's like,
it's only three of us in the house. It's either her, my husband, or me.
So here's a better way to think about it. Is that, she obviously feels like you take other people's side over her. And so she gets the blame and other people get to get away without anything being said to them.
But other people do get said things too, just not in front of her. Like, I still try to keep her a child. So if I'm correcting Junior, I don't do it in front of her. Does that,
but that can't be that can't be the only person.
You have to.
I mean, it's only us three all the time, unless we go to church, and I'm not.
Well, she goes to school, doesn't she?
Reprimanding her. Yeah, but I'm not, like, she don't get in trouble at school.
Okay, let me give you an example. I had a situation with Shantae one time. I'm gonna use school. And the school's calling me and saying, she's this and she's doing that. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna have a meeting. And what I did was, when we came together, this teacher, the principal, Shantae, the teacher was able to explain to me what was going on. So then I made that teacher sit there and like, okay, Shantae, I need you to express to this teacher what you said to me and why this was going on. But I was able to get both of them to hear each other's side. And then I corrected the teacher and I corrected Shantae, but I did it in a respectful way. You know, there are certain things that you can do in a respectful way, but sometimes people nowadays, they don't want that, you know, people don't want to be at fault, but you know, they have to be I had to get the teacher to a point where you were angry at another class prior to her coming to your classroom, and then you took your anger out from the other class and you took it out on her. And so the teacher kind of understood, but it's a way that you can, you know, try to work it. And when you say Junior, is that your husband?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. In that situation, without raising voices, you, him, and Davida should be able to sit down and discuss for her, and here to get him to a point to listen to hear her. Hear what she's saying. Davida, you need to hear him. You know, and you guys sit down and discuss it as a family unit and then come up with, you know, a solution. Mm-hmm. But and she's got to be able to express, because right now she's feeling no matter what she say or do, right, you're gonna take the other person's side, because that's what she sees, because you're not expressing anything in front of her to this individual, because you have to remember this is her stepfather, so she already feeling probably some type of way right there. It's like, oh, she's gonna take his side anyway. You see what I'm saying? So, okay. And so you have, you know, there's something right there you got to work out, because this is, you know, she already feeling that way. Right. So you got to get to the root of why she do you like that. It's not that she may be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Not angry at you, but it's always been you and her, and now you brought this other individual into her life. So you have to, in some kind of way, you have to get some balance in there and let her know, you know, and let her, like I said, let her express why she do that towards you, because it sounds like she's having some kind of resentment towards you for something, and you got to figure out what that is. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and we don't know the exact scenario. So, I mean, but that's what it sounds like. Like, you know, she's giving you the answer, and you would have to kind of slow down and pick that apart and figure out, okay, so how do we work with that? Bianca, and then I thought I saw Bree's hand.
Yeah, this is Pastor Joe. Just sitting here, no, just listening to like that whole thing. Coming from what I'm about to say is coming from a coach / father / husband, like combined, mix it all in one. One thing that I have learned, definitely, and coach or pastor, well, you should be able to agree with me on this, definitely from a younger age. When we was coaching kids, these kids will observe you, watch you, and try to find a place where they can trust you. And when they get into that place where it is, then they will lay themselves out to do anything for you. One of the things that I was doing at that time is that I took on so many different kids that sometimes my kids didn't understand, well, why are you doing this for them but not for me? And I'm using this as a starting plate or whatever, to say, when these kids are young, they are smarter than what you think. They sit there and they study, they grow, and then they learn the do's and the don'ts on what they can do, so things can be rooted, even though that you may try to say, I'm doing this now, but there was a starting point where this wasn't happening. And wherever it was happening, it has built a rebelliousness, or it has built a disconnect due to the fact something was missing before. And the best way that I was sitting there, God was showing me an example. It's like, that's like, say, two believers constantly continue to go out there and drink, smoke, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, one individual just says, they're going to stop doing it. Then they try to tell you, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't do this and do all whatever. You looking, that person looks at you like, what? Wait a minute. You was just doing this with me. You was just doing this and whatever. And so they built this way of who you are. And so when kids do it, because I got my grandbabies, I watch them all the time. Either they're looking for attention because they saying that one is getting more attention than they are. And then they get jealous and frustrated. So they do everything they can to try to get that attention. Or when they was trying to do it, we wasn't in position to actually give them the attention because we was giving everybody else the attention. And when we was giving everybody else the attention and stuff, they felt neglected. And then feeling neglected, that's when they start finding other things to be to fill in a void. Because now they holding an inside grudge with you, not really realizing it, because they say, well, when I did try this with you, I got yelled at, or I got this, or this happened to me, or whatever. And then they get a fear in them. And when they get a fear in them, they be like, well, I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this because I already know what the reaction is going to be. And if you're showing more respect, honor, and love to somebody else's kids, man, woman, church member, whoever, more than your kids, they hold all that in, but they don't know how to express it the way we do as adults, due to the fact because they're trying to figure out, what did I do wrong? And I don't want to get in trouble. And so sometimes you have to get them and put them in that position and to say, where did this start? What did I do to cause you to feel this way towards me? And then you have to be able to sit there and listen to them say what it is without interrupting them, without correcting them, without bashing them, but let them talk so they can expose what's going on. But then you can see within yourself what you are missing.
Yeah, I do agree with that. You know, I was actually doing some research earlier today, and I came across this terminology, and it's called negativity bias. And negativity bias is this cognitive bias that explains why negative events or feelings typically have more significant impact on our psychological state than positive events or feelings, even when they are equal in proportion. And so for whatever reason, you could be doing something right, and then you do something wrong, and the wrong impacts and leaves a bigger imprint than the things that you were doing right. And so depending on how significant, the thing is that you mess up. Let's say you've been being nice all week and you snap and go off, that's going to leave an imprint for weeks, and all your niceness is forgotten. Has anybody ever experienced that? Just you do one thing and then all of a sudden people think, yeah, you're always like this. But you only did that one time out of a whole week. And it's like, yeah, see, you're always like this. You always treat me like this. It's called negativity bias. Only one person experienced that? Man.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
I was like, man, a lot of people experience that, and sometimes we're the ones doing it. We'll say, we'll be going good for a long time, right? One bad thing will happen and we'll say our whole life is just horrible because of this one thing that happens. It erases all the good. And this is called negativity bias. And it's actually a thing that a lot of people experience. And we have to stop and realize that this is a disorder. This is not true. It's just somehow we do have a bias that leans towards, glorifying negative events. And when you're around somebody that does it, it's hard because they will pick the one thing you did wrong and make that everything. You could be doing all the right things. So you got to understand, we're battling some stuff, especially with children, let alone with adults. With children, we're battling some things, and you have to communicate through those things. Because a lot of times when you're trying to help kids to learn something, it's an up and down thing. Like Pastor Joe said, we're coaching kids, man. Some of those kids are really fragile. One little thing would discourage them. And me and Pastor Joe, we were the type that we would fight for those kids. We see a coach going at a kid, we're like, hold on, don't do that, don't do that. Because we know that kid, if that kid walks out of this gym, they might go into a gang, they might go get high or drunk, they might go somewhere and do something bad, and so we would try to really help those kids because they were really fragile, and especially when things are going good. That's when the negativity bias comes in the most, is when things are going good. Things will be going along smooth. One bad thing happens, you'll think everything in your life is bad, and you'll erase all of the good that just happened. You've done all these good things, and this one bad thing makes my whole life terrible. And sometimes we don't realize that we're trying to overcome that. Brianna.
Oh, I was trying to give a thumbs up to what you were saying,
Oh,
but my
okay.
question was okay, so how does it go for okay, let's say you are trying to be that parent, who parents the child, disciplines the child, and you're trying to be more gracious than harsh, and you just give out so much grace and you keep giving out grace, and then eventually they don't get it and you end up having to snap and whoop them or yell at them or something, and then now you're the bad guy, and now you're now they fear you're the bad guy because like you say, you're doing all this good, gracious, nice parenting, and then you snap that one time and now you're the evil person now.
So I gotta ask, what were you trying to teach them when you snapped?
Well, that goes for many things. I mean, because for me, it's
Right. Give me an example.
Caden is a picky eater, so he doesn't like to eat hardly anything. So I always try and give him food, new foods, we try new meals, we try and give him those. And I'm trying to be so patient and so gracious because I know he's picky, but it's he gags before he even tries the food, and then he cries, and then he ruins the meal for everybody else. And then I end up having to yell at him and tell him, just go to bed, just go in the room, get out of sight, because you just created a whole scene and all I wanted you to do was take one bite. I'm not even forcing you to eat the whole thing.
So what is your goal there? What are you trying to train him to do?
I'm trying to train him to eat food that is in front of him because he might not get to always have hot dogs.
You're trying to train him to eat any food, or you're trying to train what, or is it, what's your goal there? You want him to eat what everybody else is eating?
Yeah, that's the goal, is to eat the same food as all of us. So we don't have to cook 500 meals every night. We all eat one meal.
So what does he eat?
He loves hot dogs and bologna.
So if you're training, right, then you're going to have to take small portions of what you guys are eating, not as much, but very, very small, so that he at least tastes the things that you're eating, and then he can have his hot dogs.
Okay.
And I know that seems like work, but training is work. Because training is about understanding the person that you're trying to train, right? And so if you understand this and you have a goal, you're gonna say, okay, so how do I bridge the gap? How do I bring them along, so that they can get there?
Right.
So, if y'all are eating, let's say y'all eating, I don't know, spaghetti.
Uh-huh.
Then he gets a tiny little thing of spaghetti and he gets his hot dog. You can't touch the hot dog until you eat this little bit of spaghetti.
Okay, I think it's a mental thing for him then, because I put one noodle on the fork and I say, here, just try this one noodle. And he just starts really hyperventilating, freaking out, saying, I don't know. And then he starts.
Was the hot dog there?
No. Okay, so try it with what he wants inside. Okay, I can try that.
Because there's got to be some reward for me choking myself out, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's got to be worth it to me, right? Okay, I'll eat that little bite, and then can I have my hot dog? Yep.
Not the whole hot dog.
Right. Yeah.
Half the hot dog.
Right.
Okay.
So when you're thinking about training, Training is about starting somebody somewhere and slowly growing them to maturity or growing them towards the goal. It's not about, you got to do this. When Mama Hill was talking earlier with the chores, they didn't start with the whole house,
No.
right? Mama Hill, they started with, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And and then you slowly, gradually add more as they show that they can do it, right?
Right. They knew what like I said, if one was, it was either you're responsible for cleaning the bathroom and your room. That's
right.
all you got to do for that whole week, your bathroom and your room. Because the room was always, they were always, was the room.
You always had your room.
You always had your room.
Right.
But they would have one, they had a specific thing that they had to do that day that had to be done.
And then they could go outside.
And then they
Yep. See their friends or go to the movies, whatever it is that they're trying to get to, right?
Right.
Yeah. Akila.
Yeah, I have a question too. I mean, I'm listening in on the training, but I'm slowly realizing that teenagers right now, it's almost like they're a child in a sense, because I don't know, for me, I was just thinking, oh, me and my daughter are close, we're good, establish a lot of stuff early on. And to me, I don't know, when she became a teenager, it's like I feel very disconnected from her now. I feel like she hides things from me, and I guess that's typical, I don't know, teenage stuff, I don't know. But my question is, my daughter or motto or
You're cutting out, Akila. You're cutting in and out. Yeah, go ahead, try it now.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Now I can't. When you said, can you hear me? I can hear you, but then when you start talking, I can't hear you no more.
Okay, give me a minute. I'm almost home. I'm driving, so let me just try to re-ask my question once I get home.
Okay. All right. Amelia.
Sorry, it's kind of crazy at work tonight, but to go off of what Akila was saying about her relationship with her daughter, I remember with my mom, with my relationship with my mom growing up and becoming a teenager, we definitely butted heads. And don't get me wrong, we still have our days that we butt heads and stuff, but now it's more of, I butt heads more with my dad and more with my stepmom than I do with my mom. And I talk to my mom, to be honest, I talk to my mom on a daily. If not 3-4 times out of the day, depending on what's going on.
So Amelia, let me ask you this. Why did you and your mom butt heads when you were a teenager? Because this is a great opportunity to shed some light on that.
Some of it was because I thought I knew everything. I thought I was big and bad. I thought that I didn't need anyone. Some of it too was because of stuff I was being told by my dad and my stepmom. Just because of the 50-50 custody and battling with court and everything. Where now it's more of, I have apologized to my mom for thinking I was big and bad. I'm 20. I will be 21 in 4 months or 5 months, and have apologized to my mom because I thought I was big and bad, but I wasn't. Yeah, for sure, I'm not big and bad. There are things I look at now that I'm just like, okay, you told me this.
Right.
But You told me to watch out for this. You told me to look out for things, and yet I didn't listen to you. So now I'm sitting here struggling, going, okay, Mom, how do I handle this? How do I go about things now? So it's definitely one of those, we all go through that phase where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to my mom because I don't want to listen to what she has to say, or I don't want to admit that she's right. I don't want to admit that, oh, she knew what she was talking about.
Yeah.
Where now, I don't know how many times I've sat on the phone with my mom and been like, you're right. I hate to admit this, but you're right. I don't know why I didn't listen to you then. And even then, sometimes I look at things too. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, there's still some stuff I don't listen to my mom about, but then I hear it from someone else. So sometimes it's more of we are listening to our parents, but we may understand it better from a different person's point of view or a different person's perspective than it constantly being our parents' point of view.
Yeah. Amelia, I really appreciate that. That is so insightful, because there's some parents that got teenagers that need to hear that, and there's some parents that were once those teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And
Talking to my mom, she
it.
said that she was that teenager.
Yeah.
And then she had me, and then she was like, okay, I basically got a taste of my own medicine.
My own
She
medicine.
said, I love you. I truly love you.
Yeah. Yeah. Akila, you back?
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me better?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So my question was like, my main question is, how can I train and model just like a better openness between my, I don't know how I'm trying to say it. Like how can I train her to be more open with me, if that's the question? I was just saying how like early on, her growing up and stuff like that, we really had I feel like really good relationship. Obviously she was little, up until her now being 14. But I always felt like we had a good bond. Like I tried to model being open and transparent with her because I didn't really have that with my mom growing up. And so my question is now, like, I guess obviously teens, they go through teen years. And there's certain things that they don't, I don't know, like I just noticed her being a little sneaky here and there. Not too sneaky, but just like us not having that same openness that we used to have. And I still try to be very transparent with her with like, she knows the mistakes I've made. Like I've apologized to her. Like I'm really just trying to model, that it's okay for her and I, I'm a single parent. So, I mean, her dad's out of town, but I just, I don't know. Like, how can I model or like help her be more open with me? If that's the question.
Well, it all depends on your reaction to stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when she does share something, how do you react?
I sometimes tend to overreact or am passive about it. I've noticed that. Like either I'm afraid to like, either it's too much. She's like, oh my gosh, Mom. Or she's like, well, how come you didn't do such a, last time you said I did too much. So it's like.
Yeah. So that sounds like it's more about you than about her, because she has to know that she can trust you.
Okay.
If you're going to fly off the handle or you're going to ignore her, it's like, well, why tell you anything? I'll just keep it to myself or talk to people who care. Well, because that's the way it feels. It's not saying you don't care. Don't
right.
I'm not saying that.
But sometimes she'll mumble something while I'm like busy with the boys. And
that means she wants to talk.
Like trying to talk to me, but I'm like, well, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Like, never mind. Like, what?
But there you go. You want her to be open, then you're going to have to be attentive.
Okay. Yeah, this is a balancing act now with these two younger ones. And I know at first
Yeah,
she was
it's going
like,
to be a
ah.
challenge. It's
Yeah.
going to be a challenge, but you're going to have to be intentional.
Okay.
But it's going to be hard. I'm not going to say it's not. It's going to be hard, but you're going to have to be intentional if that's your real goal. If you really want that,
Yeah.
then you're actually going to have to be intentional about it.
Okay.
And you're going to have to be creative. And I think some of the other ladies that, have multiple children at the same time probably can talk to it better than I can,
Mhm.
but you're going to have to be creative in how you do that.
Okay.
Let's see.
Thanks.
We got G Berry, Amelia, and then Bianca. Got a few hands up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I listened to Amelia. That was extremely insightful. I was listening to Mama Hill. I'm just getting off of work. So I had a question just because I want to make sure I'm fully understanding. So it sounds like you parent from the place that you were parented. Is that correct?
Yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people do, because that's the only thing unless you intentionally, right, do something different, right? Because there's certain things that you notice, and Ty's sitting here, and when you talk about girls, I can tell you there were moments where Ty and Tiara, they had some really tense moments growing up. And she had to decide that I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do what was done to me. I'm going to figure out a different way. And so she had to be creative, because I don't think there's a mom on here who has raised a daughter that has not had to go through that bump in head stage, right? I mean, even kids that are good, people say, "Oh, Tiara's a good girl." They had some bumping heads and bumping chests and bumping. They had some bumping, and so you, as a parent, when you become a parent, you have to decide: am I just going to repeat, or am I actually going to invest and engage and say, who is this child, and how do I parent this individual child, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, just real quick, I'm not trying to take up too much time. I know we got a little less than 20 minutes, but the question I do have is, what do you specifically mean by being creative?
Yeah, being creative is about, again, knowing the child, right? So I'll give you an example with what Akila was talking about. So Akila's sitting there, she's got one baby in her arms, the other one's on the floor reaching up to her, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." And then she's got her teenager who's trying to talk to her and feels like she's not paying attention, right? Well, what should she do? Well, can you help me do this? And we talk. And grab him. Let's go over here. Sounds like you got something you want to share. You have my attention. That's being creative, because the moment says, I don't have another arm. I don't have any more time. So it's almost like you got to think, how do I get this done? Right?
Wow. Okay. I see what you mean, how that could be very unorthodox, because it's easy to succumb to, no, I got to focus on this task because that has my attention, but instead making sure everybody's incorporated. So I got a baby on the arm, there's a baby reaching out to me, and then there's another child that wants your undivided attention. So actually being like, no, that's why you say intentional. That makes more sense. One that's just like, man, what's the point? This just feels like nobody's hearing me out anyways. You're gonna go and like, hey, help me with this child right here. And as you're getting their attention to do what you asked of them, then you can get their undivided, and then you could like initiate that conversation with them so they don't feel left out in a bed. That makes a lot of okay, bet.
Right. Because I think Akila said this, and that the oldest child almost seems like a baby too, because they still want attention. They still want your attention. They still want you just like the want you, right? I mean, that's why it feels like that. And so you have to almost be creative and figuring out a way to bring it together so that you're not neglecting them. But at the same time, you see, I got your brothers, and so grab him for me, come over here, and whatever you're doing while I feed him, what's going on? What's happening?
And I remember, sorry, while y'all are talking, I just remembered my daughter loves to write. We both love to write. So we used to write notes to each other when she was little and she was learning how to write. But I think that could be a tool too, because we used to have a mommy and daughter journal, and she would write me little notes and we would pass it back and forth. And even though that's cheesy, but something simple as that, here, let's bring this back up. I can't hear you at the moment.
Yeah.
Or, other things to be creative. I think that's good.
Be creative. Amelia and then Bianca.
To go off of the part you were saying about creativeness, I remember when it came to needing to talk to my mom, it was she and I would go to the gym and then go get Master Blast from Sonic afterwards, because that was just our thing. But that was my way of feeling like I had a safe space with my mom to talk to her. And even then now, what is it? Last week, she got back from her trip and I needed to talk. And I didn't want to talk to my dad. I didn't want to talk to my stepmom. I didn't want to talk to anyone at work. It was, hey, Mom, can we go to the gym? And yeah, can we go to the gym? I just need a little bit of time with you at the gym. I was like, one, I need to get back from the gym, but two, I need to talk. And that's what we did. It was, I got off of working a 12-hour night shift and then went to the gym and worked out and talked to her and just told her how I felt. And it was just one of those that she was like, okay, now how do we move forward from this? How do we go on from what you were just talking about? And it was just one of those, I was like, okay, now that I was able to work out and to kind of have a breather, I was like, okay, now I can think about moving a different way than what I would be doing if I was frustrated or if I was not wanting to talk or anything. And especially just because this past week was kind of a rough week for me. And I definitely got back from my trip and just had a breakdown moment. So going to the gym with my mom was definitely one of those that I needed. And then to go off of what you were saying, Akila, about how your daughter doesn't talk to you, give her time. I definitely, like I said, I went through that phase where I didn't talk to my mom. To the point, number was blocked, wasn't answering phone calls, wasn't answering anything. Give her time and just continue to tell her that you love her and that you're there no matter what. And if it's one of those, okay, you're frustrated about something that she does say to you, say, okay, let's give each other a few minutes and then we'll come back and talk about it. Just because I've noticed that when it comes to my dad and I talking, he will say some things and then both of us are pissed off and then nothing gets done. And on that note, work is getting a little crazy, so that's where I'll leave. So
Okay. All right. Thank you again, Amelia. I love that perspective. Bianca.
Okay. I just been sitting back listening. Me and Pastor Joe got something, but I just been sitting back and listening to everybody and everything like that. And as a mom, as a coach, we was just talking about this. I gotta get the girls, even though they're my kids, even though the cheerleaders are my cheerleaders, but they still my kids. I gotta get them to trust me first. Me and Pastor Joe was just talking about this, but I gotta get them to trust me first. Then I could get into that stage of training them. But there was an incident where they would say, like Pastor said, that negative bias, Mama B, you sometimes don't know how to separate mom and coach. And that kind of stuck to me, because I'm always going to come at you as a mom. But no, you're right. I'm going to come at you as a coach. And that happened because I put a kid in their place and they're like, dang, you not Mama B no more. So that was that.
Mm-hmm.
the part of Akila. You know how you were saying like Shanae not talking to you and trusting you, and we kind of talked about a little bit about it on Sunday. But what I'm gonna say is this: in order for your daughter to be able to come to you and to be able to talk to you, it has to be a mother-daughter confidentiality.
That's good.
Period. It has to be mother-daughter. It can't go outside of that. And so until you get to that spot and where she can trust you in that, she's not going to come talk to you. So you have to be able to show her that this is between me and you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm working on that. Yes.
That's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah,
real.
and thank you for that Sunday
girls,
too. Yeah.
with my girls, it was to the point where I had to learn that for myself. I had to see it for myself, and I had to be able to be in a position where they can come and talk to me and it stay between us. And I can't just, like Pastor said, that reaction. I have to be there and I have to listen, because sometimes they do. They just want you to sit there, like put a pillow up between y'all two and listen to each other, and you not react. You just let them vent. Just let them vent. But they don't see your expressions. They don't see your face because they just need to vent. And so maybe try that when y'all talk, or like you say, in the kitchen cooking, because y'all both cooking, you're cooking, but let her be able to talk to you without giving that reaction, or you going all AWOL because she said something and then you're, you know what I'm saying? Give her that space to be able to vent to you and not you come at her. Sometimes our kids do just need us to just listen to them and not react to them.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and thank you for that Sunday too. I'm taking that. Because thanks.
I just wanted to add just a little piece. I just listening to this, it just took me back to my childhood years, and I think this little part is like, it's very valid, is that in the house of a person that serves God and a person that does not serve God, I can say that I lived up to I had 12 years of experience of watching both sides of a person that serves God and a person who doesn't. From 12 on, when I was separated, when we was moved on or whatever, I had already I have already seen the characteristics of a non-believer and a believer. So when I started building, knowing who I was, my mom did everything right. She did everything. She installed, she taught, she teach, she equipped, she did everything. And so to that degree, yes, we was respectful, we was all whatever, but I had 12 years of learning the opposite as well from what I seen with my dad. And when I seen those things, I took on those characteristics as well. I picked on those characteristics and I operated on them, but it's because I studied and I watched. That's why I said it's so important as a kid. We watch and study and see. If it's a video, we learned how to dance on the videos. If it was a conversation and it was a cuss words, we learned cuss words. If it was alcohol, we learned, like we studied and we watch. And as kids, we study and watch people, and we pick up characteristics from people. And even if you're doing everything right, if you got cousins or aunties or whoever, whatever else, your kids start watching them. You know what I'm saying? They can start picking up all these other characteristics from other things that they're following and what they're watching. And you can be doing everything right, but they're drawn off of other things. So that's why it's got to be important that who's in their life, who they're talking to, what they're watching, how they're studying and all that stuff. And to go back to what Bianca was saying, like I'm looking at this and I took a picture and how Pastor put train, test, and trust. And I just said, I like that. I said, but the way I do things is trust is my first one. And I'm not taking away from what Pastor got, but trust is my first one.
Cycle. It's a cycle.
I go say, because my thing is, because a lot of people at the school and that's why I said Pastor will know what was with us. Me and Pastor was men of God. We was not, I'm just using Hinckley right now. We was men of God. They knew we served God. But they was able to, we earned their trust. They was able to come, speak to us, talk to us, rely on us. They knew their stuff was confidential. We dealt that. And once they learned that way, I can trust these men, we was able to train them. Once we start training them, It was like the sky was the limit. They would do anything for us. So when that test was ready, they went out there and passed that test because they trusted us. And then so that's why I think what Bianca said, and even with your parents and stuff, is like, as a parent, it's, yeah, we want to be our kids' friends, but as us being leaders, as parents, we want them to trust us. And we want them to know that what you say to me is between me and you. Like what Nunu say to me, everybody else don't need to know. What Davion say to me, not everybody need to know. But there's times where everybody will know. You know what I'm saying? Like my kids know that I have a relationship with them. They're all different, but I all love them the same way. I train them the same way, and I treat them the same way. But in that, they know that they can come to you, and what they say and what they need and what they desire, that they're going to get it from you, and it's not going to be a backlash or a comeback. Once your kids know that they can get that from you, sky's going to be a limit. That the training part won't be hard. You know what I'm saying? The trust part won't be hard. And even in the test, when they fail, hey, you know what? It's okay. When it comes back again, this is what you got to do different. And it makes it fun. So I like this diagram, but I just wanted to share that part too.
Yeah, and just real quick, you kind of reminded me of what I was going to say when Bianca was talking, that trust is what we're looking for. A lot of people say that parents are trying to be their kid's friend. Really, it's not about, I don't think they're really trying to be a friend. They just want to be trusted. They want their child to trust them. And so sometimes they go about it the wrong way, and it lowers them to this friendship thing. But what you're really trying to do is you're trying to get them to trust you so that they'll, talk to you when they need to talk to you. They'll listen to you when they need to listen to you. And so sometimes they go about it wrong. And I think that's why, I'm glad you guys brought that up. That trust piece is really important, because that's what bridges the gap. That's what allows everything to keep flowing in that circle. Willie.
No, I'm just soaking all this in. And I completely forgot what I was going to say. So,
Okay.
You know what? Hold up. Yeah, I just remembered right now. Excuse me. So, one thing that really stood out to me when I was listening to Pastor Joe is how he said he saw both sides of the spectrum of the godly and the ungodly. I picked that up really quickly, and I was, just looking at my parents. And now, first and foremost, I want to say my parents did the very best they could. So this is not a knock at all. They both do love God, however, there was a part where I noticed, just reflecting on my childhood, where they did instill a lot of godly attributes and traits. They both love God. They both serve God, not serve God, but how do I explain it? It's not that they didn't serve God, but it was mostly they didn't fully make the commitment. There it is. They didn't actually make that actual initial commitment. And you know what? I'm gonna have to really reflect on that better. I'll have to, because I'm just struggling out loud, because again, I want to make sure I understand this. So, but one person I could definitely say they exemplified to the very highest extent was my grandmother. Hence why I'm even cooking. Hence why I love serving. Hence why I love doing these things. And in struggling out loud, I'm seeing my parents did that in the community. And hence why, by the mercy and the grace of God, why I didn't succumb to a lot of the pitfalls in Northern California. So that's a praise report. But one thing I can definitely say is, man, I'm taking in so much right now, because I'm seeing the trust. In one of my songs, I said it takes investing time, developing trust, and delivering truth. Now, that the delivering truth part can be somewhat put into it, but I think that's definitely going to be a part of the training process. But I definitely can identify what Pastor Joe was saying about, you got to develop the trust, and then that trust is going to take time, because I'm seeing that a lot of youth is very, very guarded because of all the trauma. And what you, Pastor, what you said, and what Pastor Joe just said, about being delicate and actually observing and actually studying and actually seeing the children from where they actually are. when things are going good, and then one person could come in unintentionally and just shatter that child, and not want them to succumb to going to drugs, or even worse. And all these, like the season right now we're in, like people are very depressed and people want to just go off the deep end. They're tired from the end of the year, right? So I'm just taking in a lot, and I'm seeing that first part definitely being a very, very, very important part of slowing down. Of I got to take the time to develop that trust with that child, and then in the process let them come around to me, so that way I could train them. I still need to look at the test. I'm just coming off of work, but man, this is I mind blowing and eye opening and very enlightening. So amen.
Yeah, something that Bianca was saying earlier about, letting, the child vent and not, correcting them right then and there. It's something that I still do even with adults. Sometimes people come and they're saying stuff and I'm listening. And the reason why you're listening is because you're letting them get that out, because you can circle back and correct and redirect stuff. A lot of times we're tempted to not let them say that. Don't say that. Don't say this. Cut them off and don't do it. Instead of just listening, letting them get it all out. And then through circling back through the conversation, then you can start redirecting and correcting things. Because like I said, a lot of young people today are very fragile. And as soon as you correct, they feel like they've been rejected, and so sometimes you're just listening and you're just, yeah. And you're cringing on the inside, right? Because you're hearing them say stuff and you're like, but once they've gotten it out, now you talk to them, and now you slowly go back to certain things and you redirect and you correct them. Kenji, and he'll be the last one. It is 8:31.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I have a son, Elijah. He's 22 years old, and we have a strained relationship. We had a good relationship until he was about 10 or 11 when I got married, and some things happened to where our relationship kind of got strained, and he started getting into trouble, and he's been like that for a couple of years. But now he's 22, and he got a DUI. He wrecked his car, lost his job, and he's depressed, and he's living at his grandma's house back in Colorado Springs. And I told him that he could come out here once I got a house, and so now I got one, and so I think he's heading out he's gonna be heading out this way. So I'm just gonna probably I don't know, maybe need some of your guys' advice here and there, because
yeah, well, I'm glad he's coming, because you'll have that chance to kind of rebuild that relationship.
Yeah.
But,
so I just want to deal with it. I'm listening to all you guys. I know we have different age groups here and different experiences, and I do want to build trust. I do want to let him speak, and I do want, because I know this is a little different than dealing with a younger child. So yeah, I'm trying to navigate that. I'm gonna be praying a lot about that. So
yeah, and yeah, we got to go. But your question is, your statement is important, and I'm just going to give you this as just something to start out with. Patience.
Okay.
Be very, very, very patient, and be clear about your expectations when he comes out. Have that discussion of
Boundaries.
what's the plan, right? What's the plan?
Boundaries.
What are the things that we're going to do and what we're not going to do?
Okay.
Because if you set that when he comes out, then you have something to work off of. But if he comes out, there's no expectations, there's no anything, and then things start getting bad, then because you won't have any reference point. So,
But the boundaries have to be what you're living by as well.
yeah. And I'm using the word expectations in the
Or
place of boundaries.
Yeah, but you have to live by those as well.
Yeah.
So don't set something different from what you have for you.
Right.
One of my concerns is that he's always been attracted to kind of like the wrong crowd, and I live I'm not in the hood, but I'm not far from it. I'm about 2 miles, 3 miles from the hood. I'm kind of worried about him, ending up down there,
But that's why I said, what is he coming out for? Is he coming out
he needs to
get his life together? Is he coming out to get a job, go to school? Whatever that expectation is, set that from the door.
Okay.
Because if he comes out with, oh, it's just cool, I'm just going, out here.
Yeah.
He gonna find the hood.
Yeah. I'm not trying to. Yeah. Okay. I won't take up your guys' time, but we can talk about it later.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, great conversation tonight. Hopefully everybody got something out of it. If there was some questions or concerns that you want to circle back to, y'all know you can text me, email me, shoot a call, and we can follow up with some of those things. 2 more of these left. Hopefully you guys will stick it out to the end. Get these recordings off. All right. Yeah, this was good discussion. Thank you everybody for chiming in. Mama Hill, Amelia, Keela, Bianca, Joe, Bree chimed in. Everybody chimed in. Tim chimed in the chat. I didn't hear his voice, but he typed some stuff. Really appreciate it. Makes it engaging.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, where could I go to check out the rest of that video? I was enjoying that.
YouTube. Maybe I can send it to you. I can just send it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Good job. Good discussion.
Amen. Would anybody like to pray us out? Any volunteers? Kenji?
Sure, I'll volunteer. All right. Dear Father, thank you for this class. Thank you for Apostle Anthony and the whole Share Foundation, that we can come together and support one another, and just support one another with our children as parents, and also vice versa, help us deal with our relationship with our own parents if that's strained. So I just pray that it goes both ways, that we work on our relationships to our parents and to our children. And I thank you for this opportunity, and we love you, Father, in the name of Jesus. And amen.
Amen. All right, guys, have a great night. Love you all. Men, we'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget prayer in the morning. It's going to be Thankful Thursday.
All right.
Did you send them out?
I did.
Okay. No, I got them. They told me earlier.
Oh, okay.
All right. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Hi, Miss Taya. I hear you in the corner over there.
I'm here, Bree. I'm here.
Hi, how are you? You was having fun. You had enough fun for me. I was flying on that little motorboat for you through that picture, man. That was fun looking.
I told you I'm opening it up to everybody to join us in July on
yes.
on a cruise trip. So that's welcome.
Okay, yes.
I've looking, there's some to Belize, Honduras,
Brazil,
Bermuda, Cuba.
Ooh, yeah. Well, let me know. I need to go somewhere. So let me know.
So yeah.
That means we got to go down Kenji's way.
Yes.
Hop on the boat.
Because where are you, Kenji?
I'm in Orlando. There's a port here, Port Canaveral.
There's a port there.
There is a port there. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on down, man.
He said, "Come on down."
I got the crib, man.
There's a port there. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to pick the right one. So you guys be prayerful over the right cruise. because one of the cruises that I ran into at Coco Bay, they didn't even get to go to Haiti. They traveled, they left the port, and in the night while they was traveling, 2 workers got in a fight, altercation, and stabbed each other. So they had to turn back around and go back to, I think, Fort Lauderdale or somewhere, and helipad off, because there was police and everything, they said. And so they ended up at Coco Bay, which is not the Bahamas or none of that, but Haiti. And so